we go.
You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Here's Haliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Young player. I'm really just going in with the intentions to be out there with the team and, I'm going to give everything that I got. And, I just build from there. Pride and heart and care, you got to go out there and just do what you got to do, and you got to deal with the results, and you just got to, find a baseline to build from, and that's what I'm going to do.
When there's a potential to add a guy like Lillard to the mix, I mean, that's extreme. You're putting a first ballot Hall of Famer into the lineup. And so, look, we've played against him enough. We have an idea of what to expect there, but we can't overanalyze things. We just can't do it. When you win game one, particularly as the home team, game two is just always exponentially tougher. There's a renewed level of force that they bring. There's all kinds of possibilities with lineup things, all that kind of stuff. We got to be ready for anything, not be surprised by anything.
It's different. Everybody can look at the situation differently. I would just like to say I'm blessed. Honestly, I still have an opportunity to be in the NFL. I still have an opportunity to go out there and compete and win the job for the team. So I'm just blessed. I'm excited to just continue to work. And, it kind of feels like I just got drafted again. I'm just excited to still be here. Like I said, I'm blessed, man.
That is Anthony Richardson Sr. earlier today. Did not work out with Josh Allen, but did work out with the quarterback guru. So as long as everybody's on the same page, there you go. He's trying to say all the right things, no doubt about that. And you get the quarterback set up right there with the Colts conversation. We'll have Nate Atkins going to join us coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. But I wanted to start right here. This is actually good. And you're going to say, what are you talking about, you idiot? It's good. I'm glad Damian Lillard's coming back in whatever capacity that he is. I'm glad that he's coming back because last year there were nothing but excuses. Oh, look at the first round, and Milwaukee didn't have this, didn't have Giannis, and Lillard missed some time, blah, blah, blah. The same thing with Floppin' Brunson in round number 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. No, Anunoby's out. The flopper's out. The same thing. This is not a bad deal. You have to, and hopefully they back up these words, but you have to have confidence in this product. There normally are not going to be significant enough shortcuts that translates to winning. Now, I know that there are some exceptions to that particular rule, but you shouldn't want the shortcuts. So I think that a lot of people are just kind of thinking about the Colts for so long, you kind of get that on your brain. Like you're looking for the shortcuts. You're looking for the easy way in or the easy way to punch through. You should embrace this tonight with Damian Lillard upon his return. Because really, he set the table. He set the table with that back and forth with Haliburton after game number 1. He set the table for, all right, you're coming back, and this has been a long haul, and we're glad you're healthy. I mean, we're talking about your overall health. But you set the table for, all right, so you told him, at least from what you would read in social media, from the lip readers out there, we've been told that you've suggested that you're going to whip him with some ass. You're going to whip Haliburton's ass. You better whip his ass. You better come out there and do just that. I said this last week. I was in that situation where the Bucks or the Pistons, and we were going over that, and people asked me, and I said, in given the circumstances, I think I would rather have the Bucks. I don't know if the Pistons are justifying that in that first-round series so far, even at a game apiece with the Knicks. But I do know this. I don't want to see the Pacers have to go to Milwaukee even. You can't go to Milwaukee even. What you want to do is you want to go out. You want to continue to do what you did in game number 1. Play off of that. Because if Milwaukee wins tonight, it is going to be viewed as, with whatever happens, it is the return of a future Hall of Famer. And look what we have right now. And that place is going to be off the hook coming up on Friday night and coming up on Sunday. You want to squash it with your talent. You want to squash it with your execution, with your production. All this other stuff is just nothing but fancy-ass window dressing that should not matter. You have hoped the entirety of the time that this team, this Pacer team, is better. You believe it to be, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with the return. Believe me, I would expect the future Hall of Famer to be back for the first time. I said this about the crowd on Saturday. The Nads were pumped. And he's going to have that same thing tonight. Now, his return, his triumphant return to help his team get over. Because it was really easy to see the shortcomings in the Bucks on Saturday. And it's also really easy to see how much a guy like that can help it. I don't know, maybe occasionally knocking down an outside shot. Maybe scoring more than 14 points. Outside of Giannis, that's all the starting lineup did. 14 points in production. I don't even know if you want to describe that as production. But there are no shortcuts. What you should do is you, as a fan, should embrace it. This is what you want to see. You want to see this matchup. And that's what you're going to get later on tonight with the return in whatever capacity that is, and we'll find out over the course of the game. But the return of Damian Lillard. And let me tell you this. The Pacers, and in this case, one individual, has really all the motivation in the world. Quick shout out to The Athletic. And I know in the morning show, our James Boyd, he works for The Athletic. I don't know who he has to talk to at The Athletic to say, well done. But to release this today, this to me counters. This counters the return of Lillard. It is with NBA players voting Tyrese Haliburton as the league's most overrated player. Pacer fans, you should thank The Athletic. Pacer fans, you should thank the other NBA players that were gauged, that were asked this question. This is going to be helpful. To me, this absolutely counters the return of Lillard. Because Lillard's got to match up. Lillard's got to do something tonight because he set the table on Saturday at the end of the game saying what he said. Being over there, all dressed in street clothes on the sideline, yip-yapping at Haliburton. So now he's got to come out there and he's got to whip a little bit of ass. But now Tyrese Haliburton has every single reason in the world. The ultimate motivation. I don't know what you think. Maybe you believe as a Pacer fan he is overrated. Some will say it. Here's one of the big reasons why I will not. And it starts with Miles Turner. So you look at Miles Turner as being huge for this team, right? And you have heard me how many years running now in support, in defense of Miles Turner? A lot of people suggest, well, that's just because you have him on the show. He is rarely on this show. We have never talked personally. I just see something that some of these knobs out here don't. I just see something that some of these dipsticks out there don't. I see how useful, I see how productive in the fashion of the way that the NBA is played today. You go back, and there was this old Kentucky dumbass that was all over me early in the season about, well, Miles doesn't have post moves and he can't post up. I mean, there's really nothing dumber in the world, and it's really tough to explain to somebody that dumb exactly what is going on. This is not how they play. What we see in the success, this is how the Pacers play. And don't get me wrong on this. The success is placed on the table of this team by Tyrese Haliburton. I say this all the time. His orchestration, that is true. Now, maybe in terms of being able to superstar status take over the game, like a Jokic or last night, like Kawhi Leonard going for 39, like that, all of a sudden popping up and being that. Maybe he's not Jason Tatum, but for this team, there is no player that is more important because he kickstarts everybody else's ass every single game. Now, do they play at their best when he gets his? There is no question about that. They are at their best. We thought they were at their best on Saturday. They really weren't. They were really good on Saturday, but they're at their best when he gets his along with getting everybody else involved. Hey, listen, we were all here. We watched it pre-Haliburton. We watched it with Miles and Sabonis. It was an absolute mess. Yeah, that 1 year, the Nate Bjorkgren era. There's nothing that sucked worse than that. And that guy's a head coach. It was awful. Yeah, your 6'11" guy staked out in the corner. Well, wait a minute. I think he just wants to stand over there. No, he doesn't really want to stand over there. That's what he's told to do. You see a little bit of a difference now? Absolutely. A little bit of a difference in a little high ball screen set and knowing you have one of the elite level distributors that's ready to pass it to you, ready to get everybody involved, and not Malcolm Brogdon. He's going to do one thing. He's going to dribble the ball under the ground, and then he's going to go in and shoot a layup every single time. You have to, if you get bent out of shape from the Athletic or get bent out of shape out of other NBA players, don't. Tyrese Haliburton, even without scoring, he is the straw that stirs. Now, we would rather him also, especially under circumstances like tonight, get his. You really want to see him get his. But it is of the most importance for him to get everybody else going. And I just used one example with 33. That should be obvious. Absolutely obvious. I think most of you have finally decided to turn the page on your stupidity, which is great. But that also goes for everybody else. Getting the ball where it needs to go, getting everybody else going. Again, we saw how good they were on Saturday. They can be even better if he also shoots at a high clip. If he also scores from three. If he gets to the basket, if he is more aggressive. But believe me, this team, starting out, you get going by what he does in putting things together. Every single time. All this athletic thing is, and I know there are probably a lot of Pacer fans, I see this all the time, you're probably shaking your head. Well, there's one thing, he's not an elite player because he doesn't do what Jokic does. He can't go out there and get you 40. Well, occasionally he can, but with this team, his job, much like everybody else, this is a team. This is a team. They passed the ball 317 times, which is incredible, by the way. Like, incredible to me, I think it's average for them. I think it's incredible to me because it's like 317, which is clearly the Indy area code, 317. They passed the ball in game number 1 317 times. Again, the straw that stirs. It gets everybody else going. This is a team. It's not a one-man band. It's not that guy that comes to the carnivals and he's got, a drum and a whistle and all this stuff, the one-man band. It's not a one-man band. It's not Ja Morant. He's not going to dribble down the shot clock and then go up there and get some contact. Or, hell, you watched the Knicks last night? It's not even the flopper. It's not the foul finder. I'm going to go out there and find a foul. It's not that. When I describe him as an orchestrator, that's exactly what he is. And I know this comes from a Pacer angle, and a lot of you are saying, well, you're just the Pacer guy. You're saying, well, no, that's what you see. No, he is not an elite-level scorer. He is an elite-level orchestrator for an elite-level team. That's what you have. If you're looking for something else, you don't have it. And we'll find out how necessary it is. Like in a game like later on tonight, we'll find out how necessary that is. Yes, you want him to score more. I guess in the minds of those nationally, that is overrating one guy. But again, the Athletic did you a favor. They did the Pacers a favor. I think tonight that is equal to, even more of an interesting story than the return of Damian Lillard. And as I mentioned at the outset, Damian Lillard kind of put himself right there in the saying, hey, all that we saw on video, the talking of junk, I'm going to kick your ass, then all of a sudden now your timeline's going to be expedited. So you better be a difference maker when you go out there. And we'll see once Andrew Nembhard is sicked upon him later on this evening how that goes, how much clock he ends up getting. Hey, listen, he's a future Hall of Famer. Rick Carlisle said it best. And they've seen him a lot. They know exactly what he can do. They know what he's capable of. I understand that. But you don't want a shortcut, and the Athletic did you a favor. 100% a favor. Because if this does not fire up Haliburton to be even better offensively, which he was not, individually speaking. I mean, offensively, getting everybody else going, that's what has to be done. Making sure the pace is maintained, that's what has to be done. But they are at their best when he is getting his own. So Haliburton was number one by a long shot in this particular player overrated poll by The Athletic. I mean, really what this is a who's who of players I just like. Gobert's on there. Trae Young's on there. The foul finder out west, Jimmy Butler's on there. Do nothing, win nothing, Bradley Beal's on there. Dribble, Ja Morant. Draymond Green, Julius Randle, Joel Embiid, who never plays. Giannis. I think basically there are a lot of players that shouldn't be on there that get hit. Like Tyler Hero is on this list at 2.2. Tyler Hero goes out there, and this Miami team should be like dead-ass last awful. But with their coach and with a guy like Tyler Hero, who is a shot maker on each level, and I know people don't like him because he went to Kentucky for a season or whatever the reason, but he is a damn good player. There's no way he should be on any most overrated player list. That's because the players that were gauged, that were tested in this, don't like him. And they probably got used up by him. Like, Kyle Kuzma is at the bottom of the list. Kyle Kuzma should be at the top of the list. How do you go through an NBA game 0, 0, 0, 0? They got 5 zeros in a column. All right. The return of Damian Lillard, we will talk about that, I'm sure, over the course of the afternoon. The voice of the Pacers, Chris Denari, joins us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Remember tonight, you're going to have to watch that. Are you ready? You got to watch that on Pacers TV, which is FanDuel TV or whatever that is. Pacers TV tonight. Because you're going to end up going, and I've said this before, there are going to be some people that are going to go there, going to go to NBA TV, and you're going to get it blacked out, and everybody's going to piss and moan. Know this. If you watch the Pacers all year long on Pacers TV, you can watch it just like you have later on tonight. And unfortunately, that is, you go through the entire regular season, you're a 4 seed, and you get relegated to crappy NBA TV for this. Where do they go on Friday? ESPNU? What kind of stinking world do we live in where we have to watch we got to watch a playoff game on ESPNU? Like, what does that come after log rolling? Yeah, right after log rolling and Denise Austin with yoga. What? Seriously, ESPNU. That's why I say all the time, keep it local and keep it on Pacers TV. James.
According to Denari, Friday the telecast is FanDuel Sports Network along with NBA TV and ESPNU.
Besides Pacers TV, that whole thing sucks. Seriously, NBA and I know that's how they view the Pacers, and really, if you're the Bucks and you have Giannis, I'd be a little embarrassed by that. ESPNU, right after log rolling and Denise Austin doing calisthenics. That's why you stick with local. Again, these other clowns know nothing. These national people swoop in for 5 minutes and then talk up something like they know everything. They don't know jack squat. Nothing. Zero. We're talking about a group on TV that's been around the product the entire year, every single day. We've been around the product every single day of the season. This is where you stay. Pacers TV, where you stay. God. ESPNU. Nothing says this is a dramatic first-round matchup like ESPNU. Did you put it on ESPN? Is it right after a wiffle ball? Pacers TV, everybody, on Friday. Pacers TV, everybody, later on tonight. And then, obviously, I'm a huge advocate of doing this right here on the radio. Pat Boyle and Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill got you covered coming up here. 6:30 coverage begins, right? I'm going to look for you down there, too. I'm actually rocking today, James. Have you seen I'm rocking my... I don't want to give anybody a crotch shot right here. Can I get that up there? No, that's the bottom of the shoe right there.
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
See, this is I got this for the All-Star. I got this for the All-Star weekend a year ago. They're courtside. You know, see Michelob Ultra signage on the court, right? This is courtside. This was given to me by good friends at Zinc. I love my friends at Zinc last year. And I struggled wearing it because it hurt my feet. So what happened was the reason why it hurt my feet is because I was too much of a fat ass. So now my feet feel great in them. So, yes.
Those are nice.
It wasn't the shoes' fault. I blamed I said the shoes. It's like I think I described it as when I put it on back a year ago in February, James. Anybody ever get the Hakeem Olajuwon tonics back in 1986? You would have been better off putting the shoebox on your feet because it was brutal. And I kind of described it in the same fashion, but I was wrong. These are really comfortable shoes right here if you're watching via the AAA Membership Lounge YouTube Live. Comfortable shoes. I was just too damn fat.
What time did you say Friday, by the way?
Friday for what?
For Pacers.
Is it 8 o'clock?
It's 8 o'clock.
That's what I said.
Okay, I thought you said 6:30 start time.
No, I said tonight, 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 o'clock. Central time in Milwaukee.
Gotcha.
I'm going to tell you what, some of these Buck fans have ruined Laverne and Shirley for me, though. I thought, wow, a place where fictitiously Laverne and Shirley for so many years on ABC was iconic. I know Happy Days as well. That was a spinoff. A place where that gave us the Violent Femmes. They gave us Shirley Manson. I had a tremendous crush on her in the 90s. Garbage. They also give us Jackasses that I found out over the weekend, too, that are also Bucks fans. I mean, tremendous Jackasses. I love me some Shirley Manson. I love me Violent Femmes. I love Laverne and Shirley. I love Arthur Fonzarelli. But some of these Jackasses I didn't love too much. That's what I gather.
You have the ability to just find jackasses wherever you go.
For everywhere I go.
Yeah, man.
Do you think is that a product of just me? Is that kind of the problem I have? Do I?
You might attract some every now and then.
I attract the jackasses. Well done. Denari joins us at the 4 o'clock hour. Rakestraw coming up at the bottom of the hour. Nate Atkins with Anthony Richardson Sr. I would expect that. Richardson Sr. on the back of the jersey talking about his situation with Daniel Jones. And what was today meeting with the media. And the NFL draft. Rick Venturi, by the way, joins us on Thursday. 4 o'clock hour. We'll be live at Taylor's Pub on Thursday. So that should be fun as hell. There's nobody that's more plugged in on this and knows more than Rick Venturi about the Colts draft. I guarantee you that. I mean, Schefter and all. Who was the guy that said he couldn't come on? He didn't have time today, James. I saw Lance Zierlein. My ass. Rick Venturi, Thursday, 4 o'clock. He will not be there with us live, but we're going to be live at Taylor's Pub and looking for you. Tomorrow, it's the first time ever at a legendary location here in Indianapolis. The near south side of Indy, that's South Meridian, at Behringer's. And Behringer's is a big-time hangout for voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. So we're going to have to drag his ass down there, too. That is coming up tomorrow. Behringer's on the south side. So Behringer's tomorrow. That's a first-timer for us. Taylor's Pub, Nora, on Thursday, Tavern Tour Stop with Heaven Hill Distillery. And then Friday with the Indy Ignite at the Fishers Event Center. All right, 239-1070. All that and more to get into today. IU has another transfer portal player. We'll bring that up over the course of the afternoon as well. Loaded, ready to go. Rakestraw, Denari, Atkins, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, the stream, the app, it's HD Radio. And on this Game 2, Game Day, Gamebridge Fieldhouse tip time, 7 o'clock. We'll get you there on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Hey, shout out to AAA. Summertime. That's on the inbound right now, right? Enjoying outdoor music, vacations, and my friends at AAA. That's Matt and Matt. AAA Hoosier Motor Club. Help you save on both. Here's how. AAA is now the official travel partner of Ruoff Music Center. And by the way, we're going to do a ton of live shows out there before their live shows at Ruoff coming up this summer. That and AAA members enjoy big-time benefits. And here's how. Early entry, any concert, just show your membership card and get exclusive fast lane admission to the lawn before the gates open. Access to the AAA Hoosier Motor Club Premier Lounge, which is awesome. And pre-sale ticket opportunities for you with my friends Matt and AAA. Concerts at Ruoff are always a great time. This is going to make it better, even enhance the situation. Also, you're going to be covered with AAA. Flat tire, dead battery, running out of gas, lock your keys in your car, all this knucklehead stuff we occasionally do, or maybe even more occasionally do. AAA has your back 24/7, 365, no matter where your travels take you. So this summer, do yourself a favor. Become a AAA member today. It is so easy. AAA.com or give them a call. 844-GO, AAA-GO, or stop by your local AAA office today. John here for Love Heating and Air Conditioning, a Heil dealer at 317-353-2141. I'm telling you, this week, I promise many of you, if not all of you, will decide to go blue. Not for the blue and gold, which you will anyway, but I'm talking blue as in turning on the AC in your home. It is inevitable, and when you do it, there's a crossover right there, too. You want to make sure your system is working efficiently. That's why you call John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air, a Heil dealer today at 317-353-2141. They're going to give you a system checkup to make sure it is working efficiently. You're cool and comfortable in your home, and you're not being cost money by being hot and sweaty. That is not good. That's Love Heating and Air, 317-353-2141, a Heil dealer. And if you need a repair, mention my name, get $95 off. I'm always here to help with the great advice and saving $95 for any repair with Love Heating and Air, a Heil dealer at 317-353-2141. That's online, love-hvac.com today.
The Ride with JMV.
It takes him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I'm going to slide by Coach's Tavern on my way down there tonight if somebody wants to buy me a cocktail. It's a hell of a plan right there. Game 2, Damian Lillard's return, what should be just an outrageously offensively, more so than ever, motivated Tyrese Haliburton. Thank you to The Athletic and other NBA players. I thought, a fairly decent job in describing how valuable he is. And you know what? If the eyes of around the NBA he isn't, well, they can just smooch us. Just smooch the big one. Seriously. Because I think we all understand this team and what is important to have this team playing at its best. Mind you, you want to see a better offensive individual performance. All this other stuff is just, who cares? We know the importance. We know what he does with this team, and that's what matters the most. But I just thought you got tonight is incredibly fortunate. You got motivation to me that is just as large as the return of Damian Lillard. Anthony Richardson Sr. speaks also a little bit earlier today. That and more at 239-1070. Denari, top of the hour. Pacers TV later on tonight. If you go to NBA TV, it's going to get blacked out, and you'll be pissed, so don't. Pacers TV per usual tonight. Pacers Radio per usual later on tonight. 6:30 coverage begins right here this evening on The Fan. And Nate Atkins of the Star in the 5 o'clock hour, but on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he is Greg Rakestraw, who joins us now. We don't normally talk about the Pacers, but I wanted to bring this up. You see the motivation that the Bucks and their fan base will get juiced because of the return of Lillard later on tonight. But don't you think that the Athletic, with the overrated Tyrese Haliburton description earlier today, did the Pacers and their fan base just as huge of a favor, you think, in the long run here?
It does not hurt, but I still think that the biggest thing is the difference, and this Pacers team now having gone through some more playoff battles last year, simply put, they know that life is a whole lot different going to Milwaukee if you're up 2-0 versus being a game apiece. And so, yeah, that adds a little individual motivation for Tyrese, and that's a good thing because we know every world-class player is looking for every kind of motivational slight they can find to fire them up. But, again, I still think it's big picture. The difference in 2-0 and a game apiece in this series is massive, and that's the pace you're playing for tonight.
And don't fall into the category because last night of the NBA first-round postseason, we saw two teams fall victim to that on their home hardwood. So do not accept the trend later on this evening. Correct, Greg?
Correct. And, again, it's not like the series is over if they get beat. But, I mean, you've got a chance to, I think, get out of this one quickly. If you win both, get a split in Milwaukee, come home in 5, because I think the Bucks are to a point where if this series does not go well, they start splitting apart pieces. Give them a reason to think about going home and go fishing early. And so I think this is a significant game for the playoff path of the Indiana Pacers.
Greg, let me tell you this, too. And I know they go back home and they get juice regardless in Game 3 on Friday night. We realize that. But if you do put them down in Game 2, it's like, all right, we just used the Lillard chip now. We're in trouble. I mean, there's a lot of volume that speaks to the importance of this Game 2 tonight.
Correct. And to some degree, I think if you're a Bucks fan, hey, listen, we all know Dame Lillard's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's a heck of an ask to ask that he's going to have a big offensive impact, knowing how little he has been able to do over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's not like this is something you can kind of rehab. You are resting. And so it's a tough ask from that perspective, but you're absolutely right. You play that motivational chip, and it does not work. You're going home searching for answers on Friday night.
You know, the one thing to me, though, you knock down a bunch of shots in a row, and there's no better elixir than that. That's better than rest. Right. That's better whatever. Oh, there's really only one thing that's better than being able to knock down a number of jumpers coming back like that. So that's hopefully Pacers defensively will be able to not let that happen. But to me, I know he probably will be on a minutes restriction, but if you knock down jumpers, then everything is going to be fine, and you even tell yourself that during that process.
I would imagine it's going to be a brief first-half appearance, an early second-half appearance, and then it will be, how are you feeling, what's time and score, and then knowing you've got the extra day rest going from Tuesday to Friday, and obviously travel not being all that arduous from Indianapolis to Milwaukee, I would think he might get a little extra run than we would expect with Dame Lillard tonight.
Yes, Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So can you explain the nuts and the bolts of this transfer rule? Because we had the big news, with Fishers gaining a transfer and then kind of everybody losing it a little bit that's a lover of high school basketball because of that. The rule and how you believe it is going to affect the game at the high school level in which we love.
All right, so what the rule is that you are supposed to be allowed one free transfer for athletic purposes before your senior year. And that rule is slated to go into effect in or around July 1st, basically the start of the new academic calendar during the course of the summer. The news that broke yesterday was that Kai McGrew, after 2 years at Lawrence North, was leaving to go to Fishers. He would be a senior going into next year. So again, is this going to be adjudicated based on the rule that goes into effect this summer. Is that the reason why the move is made now? Obviously, you've got to have one school notify the other of the transfer. Then you have to have, the school that he has been at clear it, which I don't have anything official from Lawrence North. My guess is they're going to step in and have something to say in this scenario. There is also the fact that there has been another transfer already in this young man's high school days, but it was from out of state. And so does that affect him transferring again? I don't know, to be honest with you. And so what I would say is this: the majority of transfers have been allowed to happen in later years. It's been a small percentage that are contested and have to be appealed/heard by the IHSAA. My guess is that this is one that is going to have a lot of conversation around it.
Hey, it's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Anthony Richardson Sr. met with the media earlier today regarding his situation and his quarterback competition going in this offseason and then into the spring, into the summertime, into training camp. Get your thoughts on that. And then obviously coming up on Thursday, the first round of the NFL draft. Is it going to be a tight end target, or the board going to dictate to Chris Ballard and company exactly who they're going to select?
I get the feeling it's going to be a tight end target. Now, I think that changes if they feel they have to move up to get, Loveland or Warren, or if both those guys come off the board, then maybe you look at linebacker. But this is kind of rare where it is such a glaring need. And seemingly that position of need can be filled in round one, if not round two. And again, while I wasn't there for Anthony's conversation today, I was there yesterday morning for Chris Ballard's conversation. And, I think it's an accurate portrayal of the position. You don't know if it's a little smoke to try to throw other teams around him off in terms of potential trade moves, if necessary, up or back on Thursday night. But he said, listen, it's pretty deep tight end draft. In other words, I think there are guys that can help you in round one, guys help you in round two. And he alluded to the fact that, hey, there are difference makers at tight ends that can be first-round picks, a.k.a. Bowers, third-round picks, Travis Kelce, fifth-round pick, George Kittle. So I would be stunned if it's not in round one. It wouldn't be in round two for this team just because it is such an obvious need. But my guess would be if Chris Ballard has his druthers, he'd like to have that need taken care of at pick number 14.
How do you think, I know that it's a coin toss of sorts here, what are you looking forward to, if you are, about the so-called quarterback competition that we will see as, again, we're into the spring and then into the summertime into training camp with the Colts?
I think, well, first of all, there's me from a personal standpoint. As the guy that is the television preseason voice of the team, makes my job more interesting for a few weeks in August. Yeah. So there's that. As my other job as the post-game show host for the radio network, makes my job more interesting in the preseason. So there it is, pointing back to me. But the most important part in terms of what it means for the team, I think it's that sense of accountability. And I think both guys know that this year is going to impact their careers. Is Anthony Richardson going to be the guy here? If it doesn't go well this year, the answer is no. Is Daniel Jones a starting level quarterback in the National Football League? If it doesn't go well this year, I think the answer to that is no. And now he is kind of on a backup track, probably for some time, if not the rest of his career. So both guys can look at each other as not just competition, but knowing the fact that, hey, if this is not a good year for me, my career is going to change. So there is the ultimate motivation for both of those players, and in theory, that should be to the benefit of the Indianapolis Colts.
He is Greg Rakestraw with us. Final thing, you're going to have a lot of duties once again coming up in the month of May out at IMS. Some of those interesting things as we approach the month of May finally in 2025 with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in mind.
I would say just how deep is the field? And obviously, there are 27 full-time entrants. There are going to be 34 cars competing for 33 spots. But just how deep into the field do you go, and knowing that, these cars have a legitimate chance of winning the race? We have been spoiled by how good the racing has been in the Indianapolis 500. really for the better part of the last 15, 20 years, to be honest with you. And with a slightly tweaked formula since those cars were last here, is that going to continue? I'm not sure if there's much you can extrapolate from road and street courses and to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's not been the greatest amount of on-track passing, so far this year. Is that different by the time we get to the running of the Indianapolis 500? We'll have a month's worth of data to tell us. But again, with 27 full-time car and driver combinations, in theory, it should be as deep as the field has ever been. We'll see that start to play out Grand Prix weekend and beyond after that.
He is Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. My brother, I'll chat at you coming up on Saturday night.
I have a Saturday night off, so I could call at any point in time. I'll try to listen to as much of the show to get the vibe as I can.
I believe they're going with 9. I think Kara put up the 90s on Saturday on the weekend.
That's right in my power alley. Ask me, though, where I'm heading today, John.
Where are you heading today, Greg?
I am on I-70 heading to Terre Haute. I've got one more Indiana State baseball game this season, so I've got the Illini and the Sycamores at 6:30 on ESPN+. So maybe you can check a score or two while you're checking out Pacers, postseason basketball.
Will do, and go by 8th and Crawford and pour one out in honor of the greatest party destination in the history of Terre Haute, Indiana, and Indiana State University.
I will drive by and just marvel at the fact that building is still standing, knowing everything you tried to do to bring it down.
It's incredible. Greg, safe travels, buddy.
See you, pal.
Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Bucks Pacers tonight, 7 o'clock, 6:30 coverage begins right here on the Fan. Grizz, Thunder, Timberwolves, and Lakers both game 2 out west, 7:30 and 10 o'clock later on tonight. Further explanation needed. I'll give it to you as well. Plus the motivation for Haliburton, the motivation for the Bucks, and a one-game advantage in that first-round best-of-7 for the Pacers against the Bucks. Again, that tip time is at 7 o'clock tonight. Do not go anywhere. Road shows Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as well. Sit tight. I'll tell you where. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
With JMV.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Lillard's in tonight. Motivation for the Bucks. Down 0-1, best of 7 first round series, 7 p tip time. Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Hey, crowd, you got to bring it again. I thought Saturday the crowd was excellent. Got to pump those nads. Game 2 coming up later on tonight, and Tyrese Haliburton with a little advantage from motivation with the Athletic suggesting that with those NBA players that were gauged in this particular poll, P-O-L-L, that he is the most overrated NBA player. So really, it should be a helper for the Pacer fans later on tonight as well. Again, tip time, 7 o'clock, 6:30 coverage begins right here on The Fan. Pacers TV has you. Don't go to NBA TV because it's going to be blacked out and you're going to get pissed. Pacers TV, Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers, top of the hour. Evan Sherrill, Cluster Truck, is in studio. My good man, what'd you bring us today?
Got the salmon for you, of course.
Love the salmon.
We have 3 new burgers on the menu right now for the Burger Bash, presented at Kevin Lee's event from Trackside.
Shout out to Kevin Lee and Kurt Kevin right there.
Absolutely. Cluster Truck is the presenting sponsor for year 2 of the Burger Bash. We have 3 burgers on the menu, the Connor Daly Burger, Kevin Bowen Burger, and Jackson Lee Burger. Today I brought James the Kevin Bowen Burger and the Jackson Lee Burger.
James gets 2 burgers right there, man.
I'm going to be eating good for the next couple of days.
That's awesome.
Kevin Bowen. Oh, go ahead.
No. The Bowen Burger has what?
It's got Fisher Farms smash burger on it, chopped bacon, American cheese, sliced bacon.
Is there draft capital on it too?
There's no draft capital on it.
All right. Is there no entertaining losses on it either?
Absolutely
okay, great.
not.
Okay, that's not on the Kevin Bowen Burger. All right.
And then Jackson Lee Burger. You got the same Fisher Farm smash burger, fried onion straws, side of white queso.
Is there I'm taller than my dad on his burger?
There is.
Jackson Lee, I'm a lot taller than my dad. How the hell did I get 6'4" with my dad 5'4"?
There is that on this burger.
Okay,
yes.
there is.
Yeah.
I thought so. And then on the Connor Daly
burger, yep. You got same Fisher Farm smash burger, pepper jack cheese, sliced bacon, sauteed mushrooms, and then barbecue sauce on the side.
I have an RV just like JMV does from Bronze Funtime Campers on Pendleton Pike for the 500 weekend, just like JMV does. Is there anything on that there? No.
I'm guessing that there is that on there. Yeah.
I saw Connor. I saw him before game 1 on Saturday, and he was talking about the burger and talking about the RV. So he's proud of it. So,
very nice.
Well done.
Yeah, he's the best. He came in, tried the burger.
Yeah.
Last year we had fried jalapenos on it. He wanted to switch things up, so he went with the mushrooms this year per his request. And he's the best.
Oh, he wanted the mushrooms.
Oh,
huh?
yeah. It's his burger. It's just like Kevin wanted the double bacon.
You ever go mushroom hunting, Evan?
I have not, but
you ever been mushroom hunting
I'm
over there,
interested in
James?
that.
I have not, no.
Who out there goes mushroom hunting?
It's what are the really good ones called?
The truffles?
Oh.
They look like wieners. Seriously, you've never seen truffles? No. I don't know.
Morels.
Morels. Is that
That's
what
what
they're
it is.
called?
Yeah. You go morel hunting. I'm interested in that.
You know you're from rural southwestern Indiana when you take all the bread out of a bread sack and then go out in the woods and look for mushrooms this time of year. And I'm assuming with the weather, the way that it is the rest of the week, they're going to be popping up everywhere. Yeah.
Good mushroom hunting season, I guess. I didn't know that.
Mushroom. You've never been, huh?
No, I haven't.
I have been a number of times. I'm never good at it. I step on them and go past them and never find anything. Everybody else does. James?
No.
Hey, tell these guys the art of mushroom hunting, please. There has to be people out there that do it and still do it and love it and enjoy it. Tell them about the art of mushroom hunting, and while they do that, Evan, tell them about how they can get Cluster Truck and get that ordered for the game later on tonight. What the hell?
Yep, clustertruck.com. Download the app. You're leaving Gamebridge tonight. You're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the lines were long at the concession stand because the stadium is packed, right? So you pick up Cluster Truck on the way home. Get the Connor Daly Burger, Kevin Bowen Burger, Jackson Lee Burger. 20% of the proceeds, or sales actually from that, are donated to the IU Simon Cancer Center. So that's a really cool promotion.
That is really awesome, by the way, too. Well done on you guys. Go ahead and ask for the I Swim Upstream Like JMV salmon, too.
Absolutely. Dial that one up, too.
Make sure.
and get $5 off with code FAN. It's that simple.
There it is. It's Evan Sherrill of Cluster Truck, clustertruck.com. Again, the promo code FAN, $5 off, an order of $25 or more, just in time for Game 2 tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you guys very
it's Evan
much.
Sherrill right there. Quick break. The voice of the Pacers. That's Pacers TV. That's where you got to watch it later on tonight. Do it. Chris Denari joins us next.
You lose. Good day, sir.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
IU gets a transfer portal commit for Darren DeVries, the new head coach. Combo guard Jason Drake of Drexel reported earlier today. Anthony Richardson, Sr., met with the media a little bit earlier today. Back to that, Nate Atkins. With that and more, and the NFL draft for the Colts coming up on Thursday in round number 1, 5 o'clock hour. 7 o'clock, game 2. And Damian Lillard will be playing. So there's that motivation for the Bucks, down 0-1, best of 7 first-round series with the Pacers. And then there's going to be motivation for Tyrese Haliburton, and I'm assuming that he will read, he will see, being named by The Athletic and the players of the NBA gauged in this particular poll as the most overrated player in the NBA. That also could be on the inbound later on tonight. And joining us to talk about that, I'm sure, and more, the voice of the Pacers. Pacers TV for you. If you want a visual tonight, it's Pacers TV. NBA TV blacked out. It is Pacers TV. I say this all the time, too. Go local or take your ass home. Local or go home. Pacers TV later on tonight, the voice of the Pacers. Game 2 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It's Chris Denari with us. Hello, Chris.
How are you, John? Excited about tonight, and I think I've told you this is the last year that the locals can do the playoffs. So we're enjoying every bit of it. Saturday was spectacular, and hope for the same thing tonight.
So next year it's going to be on streaming services, right?
Well, yeah. Next year I don't know.
Can you imagine how pissed I'm going to be about that? I'm going to be so irate about that. It's not even going to be funny. My mom will lose her mind over that.
With the new TV contract, you've got ESPN, ABC, NBC, Peacock, Amazon. So I don't know how it will all break down, but this is the last year that the locals can do the playoffs, and it is what it is, but we're just going to enjoy the ride here in the first round as long as we can.
So I'm going to give Adam Silver, I'm going to give his number to my mom next year and tell him to have fun with that.
Yeah, I saw Adam the other day, and yeah, I really admire what he's done for the NBA, and I didn't have the heart on Saturday, game 1, to say, hey, Adam, can we talk about the playoffs in 2026?
Yeah, that's not. But again, that's next year. We're talking about this year, and I kind of brought you in on this: the return of Damian Lillard, which we all expected, and how about the add of enthusiasm and a little bit more oomph or juice for Tyrese Haliburton being a part of and the most significant piece of that overrated NBA player poll by The Athletic from earlier today. Going to be interesting, I think, the dynamic in game number 2 tonight.
Absolutely, especially when you saw what happened on the floor with Damian Lillard on the bench in street clothes and getting a technical foul. We knew what this series was about. We saw it last year. We saw, some chippiness clearly in game 1. I think you'll see a lot tonight. And, when you talk about motivation, Tyrese Haliburton, he'll find a way to be he's self-motivated anyway, but I'm sure that this will play a role in what Tyrese wants to focus on. He's a dynamic player. He has helped turn this franchise around. I kept thinking about that when I saw maybe who were the Charlotte Hornets voting, or the Washington Wizards, or teams that have no chance at the playoffs and they have a little bit of jealousy. I don't know who voted for that, but I'm sure that will sit with Tyrese. And, all players look for an extra edge, extra motivation, and I'm sure that will play a role for Ty, not just tonight, but in the future as well.
Well, listen, it goes without saying that the Pacers are at their absolute best when he also offers up a high level of individual offense. But we should also add that maybe unlike a lot of teams in the NBA, the success of the Pacers is predicated on the team concept. And these guys, and I talk about this all the time, I've seen 33 with, and I like it a hell of a lot better with than without because it wasn't anywhere near. And what he does for his team and the team concept matters the absolute most. Can he be better offensively? Yes. Hopefully that's the case coming up later on tonight because that's going to be the challenge. But this team passed the ball 317 times. That's what they're built on, the team concept, and he is the straw that stirs that drink.
Yeah, I mean, as good, you have two All-Stars in Tyrese and Pascal Siakam, and as good as they are, this team wins because it's a collective bunch, and they'll tell you to a man. It starts with Tyrese and Pascal that their greatest superpower is their depth, and when this team has 6 or 7 guys in double figures, that's when they're at their best. And I'll look back at Game 1. I thought Tyrese was aggressive. He just didn't make shots. He was 0 for 7 from 3. It was that rare night or afternoon where he just did not have his shot going. But he still had 12 assists and 1 turnover, and that 1 turnover came very early in the game, maybe before he even had his first assist. So this guy plays the rest of the way, as you said, orchestrating for his teammates and helping them to a 28-point lead and a 19-point win. So there's more in the tank from an offensive standpoint tonight for Tyrese. I thought he had a lot of good looks. I mean, he's a 40% three-point shooter. It was just one of those days where they just didn't fall. He might make 5 or 6 of those tonight.
And I think they're going to need it too, because we'll see with Damian Lillard. Do you have it all? Any level of expectation? Are you kind of expecting the most from him, but then also understanding how difficult, even for a player of that magnitude and his future Hall of Fame credentials, it is going to be to have that quick change and turn around for the better that he's going to try to accomplish for his team tonight?
Well, I mean, he's been out a month. I mean, his last game, I think, was March the 14th. You're coming back. You know, think about Aaron Nesmith when he came back after missing 30-some games, and he was more effective a week or two later than he was when he initially came back. Now, Damian Lillard, high-level player. I don't know if they will have to manage his minutes. We won't know anything until we hear from Doc Rivers at about 5:30 tonight. But I was not surprised that he came back. I thought that it might be Game 3 on Friday, and they'd wait to bring him back at Fiserv Forum in Game 3 at home. But tonight they're making the move. So we'll just have to wait and see. It was interesting, John, because all last year in that first round, Giannis, as the series went on, they kept listing him as questionable, and he never played. And so when I saw that Damian Lillard was questionable yesterday leading into today, I thought it might be like what the Bucks did last year with Giannis. But apparently at shoot-around today, or he let it be known that he would be available tonight. And we'll get more from Doc Rivers in about an hour or so.
Yeah, Game 2 tip time, 7 o'clock. Again, you watch it. If you want to view it with your eyeballs tonight, it is Pacers TV for you with Chris and Quinn and JJ and Eddie Gill. If you want to hear it, obviously right here with Mark Boyle and company with Pacers Radio. That pregame coverage for both begins at 6:30. So you slot back in Lillard, which obviously slides Ryan Rollins back to the bench. What do you do with two dudes that were zeros as far as points were concerned? And really Kuzma across the board was nothing but zeros. Does Doc Rivers make an adjustment in that starting lineup given what took place at all in game number 1 here?
Well, it's interesting, John, from the standpoint that Taurean Prince in the 4 games in the regular season, I think he shot 50% from three-point range against the Pacers and averaged 13 points per game. But you're right, he was a no-show in Game 1. Kuzma had all those zeros in the 20 minutes that he played. Their most effective group was the bench with Giannis. That was Bobby Portis, that was A.J. Green, Gary Trent Jr., and whatever combination they wanted to roll out. Lopez was not effective at all. So I think it will be interesting to see how they play this. I'm sure Andrew Nembhard is chomping at the bit to get his hands defensively on Damian Lillard. I mean, Andrew has been so good all year long playing defense. What it does is, I thought Saturday he was so good in help situations.
He was.
In how the Pacers had to double team Giannis. But with Lillard back, it takes the ball out of Giannis's hands a little bit. So there's a little bit of give and take there for Milwaukee tonight because of having Lillard back.
Well, I was going to ask you this. The dynamic defensively does change because off-the-ball defense, Andrew Nembhard was outstanding. You can't do that if you're checking a guy like Damian Lillard if he is back. How do the Pacers change that up defensively if, indeed, that is the case with Lillard and his reemergence tonight?
Well, I'm sure that they've definitely worked on that in the week leading up to Game 1 and then in practice yesterday. I think Rick Carlisle has said Game 2 is going to be a lot tougher than Game 1 was, even with a 1-0 series lead. In some ways, it's tougher because you're trying to get a 2-0 lead before you go to Milwaukee. But I think, they have plenty of experience in defending both Lillard and Giannis when they're both on the floor. I know that didn't happen in the playoffs last year, but think back to that 5-game regular season series last year when the Pacers won it 4-1 and had the big semifinal win in Las Vegas in the NBA Cup. So they're very much aware of what they need to do with both Giannis and Lillard on the floor.
So Chris Denari again, Pacers TV later on tonight. 7 p is that tip time Game 2. Pacers up a game, best of 7. Bucks and Pacers TV from Cambridge Fieldhouse later on tonight. So we've seen this. Milwaukee does not want to play at all at the pace that the Pacers do. And one of the big aspects I thought on Saturday, Chris, was the way the bench has been good this year, but T.J. McConnell had not been what we witnessed on Saturday really on the reg since we saw that on Saturday. I thought that off the bench, that may have been one of the more helpful things was that reemergence of McConnell being who we saw McConnell being for this team going to the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago.
And I think you also saw how valuable Benedict Mathurin is. The Pacers did not have him a year ago in any of the playoff series, starting with Milwaukee in the first round. He got to the free throw line. He was 8 of 8. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well from the field, but he was very aggressive. I also look, I was listening to you earlier, and you're right. I think the Pacers played well on Saturday, but can they play better? Yes, they can. They shot 51%, but Nesmith only had 7 points. Obi Toppin, didn't have a bunch of points. But the one guy that you mentioned, Miles, but I also thought Pascal Siakam. I thought the way the Pacers managed him in rest situations at the end of the year, that's the Pascal Siakam that we saw in February and March when he was averaging close to 25 points per game. Milwaukee has a tough time dealing with Siakam. He scored 20 or more points in all 5 games against the Bucks this year, and I think that's a matchup that the Pacers need to exploit.
All right, Chris, you talk about Mathurin off the bench, and if there are 2 Pacers that didn't shoot it well, both he and Tyrese Haliburton did not. What are you expecting offensively from Mathurin in game number 2?
Well, I just think the same attack mindset that he needs to have when he comes in. What the Pacers like to do is, because of their depth, really about the halfway mark of the first quarter, they're going to make their first substitutions. And they get Pascal Siakam some rest. They bring Obi Toppin in. Sometimes you see Mathurin come in for Nesmith. And it's all about the rotations for the Pacers because their depth is their key, their ability to run, their ability to get in transition. They had, I think, 23 fast break points on Saturday. So that is a big advantage for this Pacers team, and that's what they want to take advantage of again tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I thought Mathurin was chomping at the bit, but he didn't shoot it well, although he did have significant moments in a couple of knockdowns, including a 3 that was big for them. But you would expect even more, I think, offensively tonight from him.
Yeah, no question. And they got off to such a good start. They shot 67% the first quarter, 61% in the first half, and that went away a little bit in the second half, but they still shot nearly 52% for the game. And when I look back, John, at last year's 17 games in the playoffs, the Pacers shot better than 50% in 11 of those games. And so this is a team that was one of the top field goal shooting teams in the league this year. They weren't number one like last year, but they were number 3 at about 49%. I mean, this is a good offensive team. But I think where this team is better, and again, they need to prove it again tonight, is defensively. This was a Milwaukee team that in their 8-game winning streak to end the season, they were averaging 125 points per game, and the Pacers held them to 98 on Saturday. So I think as much as we want to talk about offense and making shots, if the Pacers can come out and play the same kind of defense, even with Lillard on the floor tonight, they'll be in good shape.
You are right about this, too. Their defense is certainly better, but I still think they're in the category of what is also a significant helper for their defense is the way that they push it and the way that they play, no matter what, make or miss, that really takes the Bucks into a category in which they do not want to play. They're not good at it. They know it. So I think that also still, even like last year, just not as significant as a year ago, I think it also helps out what they do defensively, and I think you'll see that again tonight.
Yeah, pace is definitely the key, and it's not just Tyrese. We saw Andrew Nembhard get off to such a great start, pushing the ball up the floor, taking it right at Milwaukee Bucks defenders. If you can do that, and the other thing, John, I just thought they got off to a really good start, and I think that's something to watch as well. I know this team had an unbelievable March and April in falling behind and coming back and winning games, but that's sort of the last thing you want to do in the postseason. So I really like their start on Saturday and would like to see that again tonight.
No doubt about that. It is Chris Denari's got you covered later on tonight on Pacers TV. So the situation is you guys are the only place around here where people can see it. What's the deal coming up on Friday? It's you guys again, correct?
Yeah, and what I do want to let people know, and I know there are people out there that don't have access to FanDuel Sports Network on their cable package or YouTube TV or whatever, but it's out there for $6.99 tonight. You know, no subscription. You can watch the game on the app and stream it to your television, and so that is available. And we're everywhere else: DirecTV Stream, Comcast, Spectrum. The way that you've watched the Pacers this year, you can continue to watch tonight. But again, for $6.99, if you don't have access, you can watch the game on the app. Now, Friday night, it's NBA TV and ESPNU, and a lot of that's because of the NFL draft. You've got round 1 on Thursday, and then round 2 through, 8 on Friday. And so, I think ESPN2 probably has a game. I'm not sure what that schedule is, but the Pacers and the Bucks game 3 will be on FanDuel Sports Network, blacked out on NBA TV, but it will be available on ESPNU. There's no blackout on any of the family of networks on ESPN. So, and then Sunday's game, game 4 is a 9:30 tip, and that will be FanDuel Sports Network and TNT.
9:30.
So TNT will have that game.
9:30
Sunday night.
Lord have mercy. 9:30. I know it's Central Time for Milwaukee, so what? 8:30 Milwaukee time. But holy hell, 9:30 here? That's crazy.
9:30. Yeah. So, but hey, it's playoff time. It's a great time of year. I just saw earlier today that the national NBA ratings, it was the highest rated TV weekend in 25 years. All the games that were on Saturday and Sunday. So that's tremendous. We had really good ratings on ESPN and FanDuel Sports Network locally. So hopefully that continues.
Couple of things, too. I mean, obviously, you got game 2 tonight, but we should mention this. I was there on Saturday. The fans were awesome. And a full expectation of it to be the same way later on tonight. I just thought that for a Saturday at 1 o'clock, they could not have brought it, Chris, any better than they did inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
I heard Tyrese Haliburton said he had chills when he was running onto the floor. I can say as a broadcaster that it gave me goosebumps and chills When the fans started after Miles hit that first three, and we're like 30 seconds into the game, and the defense chant started, you just knew it was going to be a special day, and I believe it'll be that way again tonight.
Yep, should be fun. Game 2, and again, last night we saw in Game 2 two road teams get wins.
Yeah.
So you want to get the hell out of that trend immediately tonight.
Yeah, already there have been 10 games played, and the home team is only 6-4. So that's only a 60% winning percentage. And as you said, you had two road teams last night. The Clippers and the Pistons both get wins. So I'm sure Rick Carlisle will talk about that at 5:15. I'm sure he talked about that with Kevin and James and Jeff earlier today. That's something he'll really focus on with his team, that you can't take for granted that you're at home. Even though you've got a great crowd behind you, you've got to do your work, because you just saw last night two home teams lost.
We had talked about Gary Trent Jr. from distance this season, 54% in the regular season matchups, 2 of 7 on Saturday. So he didn't shoot it badly, 6 of 11 overall, and still gave him 14 off the bench. It was much better coverage-wise from distance for a guy that had been a thorn in the Pacers' side during the regular season.
Yeah, he was, and, he hit 3 shots early off the dribble that were 2-point shots, but the guy that has one of the quickest releases that I've seen is A.J. Green, and he made 5 of them on Saturday. So he's somebody you have to contest him, and you cannot go for his ball fake or his reload, because that guy is money from outside. So we'll be, they were the number 1 3-point shooting team of the NBA this year, with all of their guys, with Lillard and Prince and Green and Gary Trent Jr. So you have to be aware of those two, especially when they're on the floor.
Well done, Chris. We'll be watching coming up later on tonight. In fact, I'm going, so I'll see you down there.
All right. Look forward to seeing you, John.
It's Chris Denari, Pacers TV, Game 2 later on tonight. Tip 7, 6:30 coverage begins on Pacers TV and right here on The Fan. So we got you covered. Got you covered here, got you covered on TV. And again, NBA TV is going to be blacked out. Pacers TV for you later on tonight. I think yesterday, at least the near quote was, at some point this season, I believe both will help us. So Chris Ballard from yesterday. Anthony Richardson Sr. met with the media earlier today. We have the quarterback competition between he and Daniel Jones. I mentioned this yesterday regarding what Ballard said. Yeah, of course they're both going to help, because they're both going to play regardless of the circumstances. Now, to the level of help is what you have to question here. And certainly to the level of good is what you have to question. Nate Atkins about that coming up at the top of the hour. Behringer's South Side, that's South Meridian, coming up tomorrow. First time for this show at that legendary location. Love it. It is awesome. Behringer's South Side, that's South Meridian, coming up tomorrow. Taylor's Pub, Nora, on Thursday. That's Heaven Hill Distillery. That's a tavern tour stop. And again on Friday, Fisher's Event Center, the Indy Ignite, and I believe the Orlando Valkyries. I know that's a movie title. What the hell's Valkyrie mean? Do I know? Should I know? I don't have the smarts real good over here, James.
Well, I think it's originated, like the term originated from Nordic culture or something
Well,
like that.
I'm all over Nordic culture. You know that, right? From the Nordic track to Aha and Take On Me, to ABBA, to Lauri Markkinen. He's from Finland, right? That's still
I have no idea.
Swedish chicks. I've been all over that for a number of years. Nordic culture. The Orlando Valkyries. So we'll be there coming up on Friday. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Some of your calls on the other side, too. Get your thoughts on tonight's Game 2 matchup. And whether or not you buy what the Athletic had to say. And even if you do, if you don't, it doesn't matter. I still say it comes at a good time Just as good a time as the return of Damian Lillard. Talk about that coming up on the other side. Do not go anywhere. Game 2, first round. Bucks Pacers later on tonight. Tip time 7 o'clock. Gainbridge Fieldhouse. You can hear it right here. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We got two guys that have had some really strong flashes, and they've had some bad moments too, and that's okay. I think both of them will be better because of this, and I think the team will be better because of it. You know, competition brings out the best in everybody. To sit here a day before we even start the offseason and have a vision of how, you don't want to begin with an end in mind. We're not going to do that. You don't want to begin with an end in mind. You got to let things play out the way they should and compete, and who gives the team the best chance to win. Look, if I'm a betting man, at some point both of them will help us.
Chris Ballard from yesterday, and James, did you put this song beneath it purposely? Def Leppard and Foolin'?
I did not do it purposefully, but it kind of does work, doesn't it?
It's Foolin'. Come on, man. What anybody's going on right now, I guess that you can take that, hey, it's a new year and anything can happen. Well, great. We've been in these circumstances how many different times in the past? I mean, that fills a soundbite category right there. But yeah, as far as anybody being really excited about this quarterback battle, what? Why? It's out of curiosity. I mean, how much better either way are you going to get? Hopefully one guy, or maybe even the other guy, recognizes. I would hesitate to burst your bubble in suggesting that we know pretty much all that needs to be known about both these guys right now. That's your level. Ryan writes this: Denari mentions the highest television ratings in over 20 years this past weekend. Enter the best in the world. And Zach Zarba tonight to send Giannis to the line 80 times to ruin the great momentum for the league. I did want to make everybody out there aware, and really this goes for both male and female. If you are in the Indianapolis area and you need a little hair product, let's just say, for example, James, you're out of hair product. This may not be the day to go out and find it because Zach Zarba's in town and all the hair product is going to be on his dome. So if you're looking for Vidal Sassoon or Aquanet or whatever that Elmer's glue type of stuff is that Old Spice has out there, they call it Pomerade or Pomade or whatever the hell it is. It looks like caulk and really stays on your hair like caulk. It's all going to be gone because Zach Zarba's here. He's going to have a whistle and enough hair product that we're all going to be out at least for the next 3 days. So consider that. You may just have to go without. No, not without a whistle. No, not without a multitude of endless reviews. But hair product, yeah, it may be tough to find. Shout out to our good friend Greg Rakestraw. Did you see Ethan Crawford right here? This looks really different. This looks nice. This doesn't look anything like the Ethan Crawford that I lived in for a couple of years right here. What I just said, Greg Rakestraw is in Terre Haute. He's doing, I think he said Illinois and Indiana State in baseball tonight. Ethan Crawford, the greatest party house in the history of Indiana State University, is not only still standing, as Greg references here, but it is thriving. It looks fantastic. It almost looks livable. Because let me assure you of this, in the early 90s, there was nothing that was livable about it other than it was the greatest place to party. I don't care who you are. If you went to Indiana State and you were some dork in some frat or something, your parties were not even close to what took place inside the walls of this legendary establishment. You had Ethan Crawford, ATOs, certainly the Pikes, your dude gatherings. Come on. This was it. This will go down in history as the greatest party house in the history of Indiana State University. The hell's that sign right there in front? Oh, stop ahead. Stop ahead. Can you imagine what we would have done with that sign right there? There was no stop ahead sign. Now, that fire hydrant was there. Now, if you look back in this picture, somebody's 1993 excursion van, that I think was also parked there when I was at Indiana State University. Nicely done. The house next door kind of looks like what Ethan Crawford looked like when I was there. The house to the right or to the south, as it might be. Greatest party house of all time, Ethan Crawford. Thank you, Greg, for that. Incredibly outstanding. JMV, the fans here have our chants at the Bucks players. Example, the count for Giannis during free throws. And Portis sucks. Milwaukee fans will be chanting overrated when Tyrese is playing at the next home game now. You know, in Jeremiah, as I mentioned, you'll get to that one of these days. That's fine. That'll come up on Friday. Friday, Sunday. But what I'm talking about is you have Damian Lillard, and I know the expectation is going to be downplayed because he hasn't played since, March the 14th, I think it was. And that he's coming back from a blood clotting situation, which is scary. I mean, health-wise, that is scary. And I know that it's being downplayed, but the impact or the expectation, I mean, that is something that can lift others on the team. And I thought that that present NBA players that were gauged, that were polled by The Athletic, that tagged Tyrese Haliburton as being the most overrated player in the NBA, they did the Pacers and the Pacer fans a great deal of good. Because as Chris Denari mentioned, he's still got everybody else going. And again, that is what this team is all about. But his shot wasn't there. His makes, they were not there. I think you got a significant amount of help from The Athletic and that poll. And the other thing, and you can say here, well, you know what? This poll is not altogether wrong because he's not at the elite level. Again, this is a team, and you are not going to ever get me to suggest or downplay the significance of Haliburton with this group. And all you have to do is look at 33, what 33 was before and how 33 is for this team right now. And make no mistake, there's a reason why. And that's because of 0. 100%. Malcolm Brogdon's still dribbling. You're still doing the high screen and roll with Sabonis. And Miles is staked out in the corner to be cussed out by everybody suggesting he's lazy because he's staked out in the corner. Unfortunately, that was just what Nate Bjorkgren called an offense. Now, this is a team, and it's different. Yeah, there's certainly elite-level players are better offensively, skilled, can go get you 30-plus at a moment's notice. But we're talking about a team with the Pacers right now. But we're also talking about a response and a reaction I believe you're going to get coming up later on tonight from Tyrese Haliburton. And that is important on an evening when everything will be surrounding the return of Damian Lillard. That's not a bad thing for you. Tip time, 7 o'clock. Jerome is at 239-1070 right now. Jerome, thanks for the call. How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing, my friend?
Jerome, great. Go ahead.
The Pacers will win tonight. That's what I'm not worried about. I'm worried about when we get back to Milwaukee, we need to send a message. They're going to try to be very physical and hurt Haliburton. And my concern is, I don't care if it's for 1 minute or 2 minutes, James Johnson needs to go in the game and at least get 4 minutes of physical toughness. Him and Jarris Walker are 12 fouls apiece. We need to open up a can of belt-to-ass on Giannis.
See, I thought that they were physical enough in game number 1 without that. Why do you need that? Jerome, why would you suggest they need that? They were physical in game number 1.
Yeah, but it's going to be a different type of physical now because Dame's back. He's chirping. Gary Trent's back. They're going to try to slow Haliburton down. They figure if they cut us off, is to be physical with Haliburton.
I know this, Jerome. I know that if there's a need for regulation, that James Johnson will be there. I don't think we saw an uptick in aggressiveness and in the way that they played with strength without that in game number 1. That's what I expect. Yeah, the other part is just there, in case, you get a Portis going haywire or something like that. I don't think that they haven't proven that that's going to be necessary whatsoever. You'll probably have jackassery, and if that's dealt with, that's dealt with. But I just don't think it's going to be dealt with in any form or fashion with play on the floor from either one, and especially James Johnson.
Well, I just want to cut out the Bobby Portis stuff before it gets started. You got to see, Bobby Portis has a reputation in the league about 5 or 6 years ago in practice when he was with the Chicago Bulls. He sucker punched mirror attack and broke his nose.
He did.
So he got a reputation as a tough guy. But people fail to realize there was another guy on that team that he was scared of, James Johnson.
Well, there's a bigger reputation he has. It's a jackass, too. That's the other thing. Listen, he can be a talented jackass, but most of the time he's a jackass. And I'm fine with getting production-wise out of him what we saw in game number 1, which was virtually nothing. I like what they did to him there. I hope you see more than that later on tonight. Jerome, anything else? I got to run here.
Yes, I hate to say it. Detroit's going to beat New York, and I'm more worried about Detroit than I am Cleveland or Boston.
Jerome, thank you very much. Worried about Detroit. Listen, I didn't want to see Detroit in round number 1. Detroit can be good. Milwaukee can be good. You got to expect Milwaukee's going to come at him hard later on tonight in a variety of areas. I just want to see the Pacers back up that level of play that we saw on Saturday afternoon in game number 2. Remember when I said, hey, don't jack around, go get this? The same can be said regarding tonight. You do not want to go to Milwaukee even. It's going to be tough enough to go up there on Friday if you're up 2-0 in that best of 7. You do not, under any circumstances, want to be even when you go up there. And Rick Carlisle said this after game number 1 on Saturday. This is going to be monumentally more difficult later on tonight with a lot of variables. But certainly you got a prideful team that got stuck with it in game number 1 in that loss. And I would expect them to, on every single level, respond accordingly. But I also expect the Pacers, like everybody that is bummed because Lillard is back, you know what? There's no shortcuts on this. To me, the Pacers should be the better team regardless, and especially the way that they played. And they can also get better in a couple of different areas. I mentioned Tyrese Haliburton offensively, individually offensively. Can get a hell of a lot better. Benedict Mathurin off the bench offensively, individually can get a hell of a lot better. Still ways you can improve on what was a very impressive Game 1 win, and you're going to have to bring that coming up later on tonight. Nate Atkins of the Star will talk about the Colts meeting with the media earlier today, in particular on Anthony Richardson Sr. That, and as we approach the NFL draft in the first round from Green Bay coming up on Thursday. Nate, top of the hour, me and you coming up as well. Do not go anywhere. It's a busy Tuesday. Game 2. Bucks and Pacers coming up later on tonight right here on The Fan. Coverage begins at 6:30. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
James there. I'm John, clustertruck.com, and Evan a little bit earlier, too. The swim upstream with JMV salmon and the Bowen burger, the Jackson Lee burger, the Connor Daly burger, all going. James going to take advantage of that later on tonight as well, which is well done. Thank you, Evan. By the way, Fan. Yeah, use that promo code, $5 off a $25 order or more. Great night to do it. Pacers and the Bucks game number 2 of their best of 7. Pacers up 1-0. 7 o'clock is that tip. Now, you might see, if you look at it, it'll say NBA TV, but no, you go to NBA TV here, it's going to be blacked out like hell. Pacers TV and Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers a little bit earlier. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Greg Rakestraw also a little bit earlier has the Fighting Illini and the Sycamores over in TH. Also had a great shot and then put that as I sent it back out as well on X of 8th and Crawford. Just the greatest party house in the history of Indiana State University. Grizzlies Thunder 7:30 tonight. See if the Grizz can keep it at least somewhere lower than 50 points. Got embarrassed in game number 1 in OKC. Tip time 7:30 out west tonight. Timberwolves and Lakers. But Minnesota trying to get up 2-0 on the road later on tonight. That tip time 10 o'clock. If you watched last night, 2 road teams winning game 2s. Madison Square Garden, Cade Cunningham and the Pistons. I'm going to tell you what. Watching Jalen Brunson play is absolutely brutal. The flopping, the foul baiting, the head bobbing. He can't do anything about a head bobbing. The fake contact, all that BS. I mean, normally it makes you feel really good to see the Knicks lose. I think it's even magnified because of that. It almost makes OG Anunoby unlikable. You go, ugh, what? Knicks lose. That series even in a game apiece, now going to the toilet. And the Nuggets lose at home last night. Kawhi had 39 turning back the clock on the road in Denver. That is even at a game apiece as they go to the Wall and whatever the hell that dome place is. Steve Ballmer's dome in Southern California for game number 3. All right, quick break. We'll come back. If you're on hold, I shall get to you in the 5 o'clock hour. Back-to-back road shows beginning tomorrow. I'll explain how and when and where you need to join. All 3, seriously, all 3 beginning tomorrow. That, Nate Atkins, Anthony Richardson Sr. with the media a little bit earlier today. That and the NFL Draft Round 1 coming up on Thursday. Nate joins us from the Star. That's next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
JMV does not suck at all.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I was bummed to see this afternoon. Mike Patrick, 36 years as a play-by-play commentator for ESPN. He was the network's NFL voice for Sunday Night Football for 18 seasons. And Mike Patrick has passed away at the age of 80. Natural causes in Fairfax, Virginia. And for a lot of us, I mean, he was it. Like, they even, if you're going at ESPN.com, his picture right here with Dick Vitale is at Assembly Hall in Bloomington. If you're an IU fan, for example, I don't know how many endless amounts of games that he called. Mike Patrick and Dick Vitale back in the day. So Patrick began his play-by-play role at ESPN in 1982. The last event he called the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, December the 30th, 2017. R.I.P. to a tremendous voice, Mike Patrick, who passed away today at the age of 80. All right, 239-1070 is the number. Greg Rakestraw a little bit earlier. Chris Denari a little bit earlier. Pacers and Bucks game 2 a little bit later on. 7P, the tip time, 6:30 coverage begins here on The Fan. No NBA TV tonight. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute. I'm looking at it right here. It says NBA TV. It's going to be blacked out. Pacers TV for you. So if you watched the Pacers this year, that's where you're going to watch them tonight. Chris Denari, Quinn Buckner, Jeremiah Johnson, Eddie Gill, Pacers TV for you. And then it gets complicated coming up on Friday with ESPNU or whatever that jackassery is. We'll get to that when it's a little bit more appropriate. Meantime, Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. He's been staked out over at West 56th Street today, and I'm sure will be over the course of basically the entirety of the weekend. Nate Atkins of the Star, who covers the Colts on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Good afternoon, Nate. How are you?
Doing well. We're here. It's the calm before the storm. In 2 days, we'll actually be able to be done with all the mock drafts and the guessing, won't we?
The nerdery is over, and then the real stuff begins. Right there, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you this. Does your sports fandom allow you to pay close attention to the Pacers and the Bucks later on tonight?
Oh, yeah, I'll have that on. You know, what I try to do is I try to put a hard stop on work as much as I can by about 7 p.m. on Tuesday, so I can just sort of, you know, take a break from it until the storm hits Thursday. So I'll certainly be watching and having some fun with that one tonight.
All right. So what do you think, before we end up getting to what was said today and Anthony Richardson and so on and so forth, Anthony Richardson Sr., I should say, what do you make of the target in this draft? I think a lot of us, including me, has said it is going to be tight end, and we always know what Chris Ballard says and, how this Colts group go about their business, and talking up the draft and going through the draft. But what's your expectation target-wise coming up on Thursday in round 1, Nate?
Yeah, I think tight end is absolutely going to be the big target for them. What's interesting to me about this year is I think there are a couple of different avenues they could go to answering what's a huge, huge question, which is not only to get a tight end, but a tight end number 1, which is not usually where you want to be heading into the draft. That's one of the most developmental positions and usually takes longer to get than just banking on a rookie. But there's 2 really good first-round options, and Penn State's Tyler Warren and Michigan's Colston Loveland, of course. There's some good tight ends on day 2. Mason Taylor out of LSU, I think, is a really good fit for them in the second round. And then the other interesting thing is there's a couple on the trade block that they could decide to get that may just move this weekend. Dallas Goedert from the Eagles, who, of course, Shane Steichen has worked with, and Michael Mayer from the Raiders. And so what I have a feeling is that they're playing this out to see just what they can do with that 14th pick. I think Tyler Warren fits them a good step better than Colston Loveland just for what they've laid out. They want in a 3-down player, comparing their need to what they used to have in Jack Doyle. That's a little different than Colston Loveland, who's almost more of a souped-up kind of slot receiver, which they already have to a big level in Josh Downs. I think if they can't get Tyler Warren, that's where those trade options become pretty interesting. Now, depends. They may take that into day 2 and see, if a guy like Mason Taylor, if they can get him in the second round, maybe they don't need to make a trade with either of those teams. But the fact that those options are out there, I think that gives them a much better way to go about this. And I just think they're approaching it with that plan and that confidence, because if you listen to what they've said this week, they're doing, the typical smokescreen thing of really not trying to reveal any cards whatsoever on any position, even to the point where Chris Ballard doesn't want to say how many first-round players are in this draft.
Normally the longer he talks, the less he says. Does that make sense to you? I'm sure it does, right, covering them?
Yeah, he knows how to run this pre-draft presser and not say much. But the one thing he was not shy about is that they need a 3-down real tight end. And I don't think he was bluffing there. And Shane Steichen today said, we're looking for a pass-catching tight end. I think they're able to talk that way because it is so urgent and there's so many options like this. And this week's all about setting up those conversations with other teams about either trading down, trading back. It's a situation where if they trade back in the first round, which Chris Ballard has done and likes to do, adds extra picks, gives you more options to get that guy on day 2 or trade for one of those 2 veterans I mentioned. So I think they're pretty confident that between those different options, they're going to answer a position that they simply have to if they want to get their run game into an elite space like they need to, and if they want to give Anthony Richardson options to actually, stay on the field, which obviously he needs to do.
It's Nate Atkins of the Star. Draft-wise, he's got you covered right there. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you mentioned Tyler Warren. Would he be available where the Colts don't have to actively move up and get him? Do you think they would think about doing something like that? Would they like maybe Loveland better, or would they just let the board speak to them as they talk about all the time and take that best player available? Is there a way that neither one of those 2 top tight ends, so-called top tight ends, are unavailable?
Well, I think one of them will be available at 14. It's very rare to find drafts where 2 tight ends go in the first 13 picks. It's rare to find one when one goes. Brock Bowers last year went at 13 overall, and he's one of the best tight end prospects in a long time. But Tyler Warren is the tricky one because the helium on him has really taken off. A lot of teams getting more and more into him when they think about just all the different skills he has and the possibilities that opens up for a play caller. And so with him, I think it kind of depends. If there's talk about how he could go to the Jaguars at number 5, the Jets at number 7. That is just going to be too high, I think, for Chris Ballard to try to trade up for. Another team would be like the Bears at number 10. That's a more reasonable place to try to trade up. So I could see that if that's really the guy that they just think fits better than Colston Loveland, which is the impression, the hunch that I have based on what they've laid out that they want in that position. But they also can feel pretty good that, if Warren does go that early, it's pretty likely that Loveland will be there at 14, and maybe they like him still enough that that's just a fine way to go about it. I also think it's possible that, like I mentioned before, that they could just look at it as if it doesn't play out that right way, they can look to trade back and try to, go after that position either in trades or in the second round. But between Warren and Loveland, I just think Tyler Warren, while he maybe doesn't have an elite single skill, when you take a guy who's caught 100 and some passes in the Big Ten, made his big plays in the college football playoff, blocked for 2 1,000-yard rushers, and has played every position, including quarterback in high school, basically. It's just that's the kind of player that Shane Steichen wants to be able to diversify and confuse defenses. And right now, their offense is just way too obvious in what players are on the field and what they're going to try to do with those players on the field. That's the kind of guy that he's been needing. So I think they'll be aggressive to a point with him, but only to a point.
So, Nate Atkins of the Stars on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You did hand out that scenario possibility of a veteran tight end trade candidate there. Is that something you think that would turn out to be logical, or is that really, let's just say, for example, out in left field in terms of actually taking place in your estimation?
Well, I have not heard that is in the works. So I'm more basing this on what I know is out there on the trade block and just some of the scenarios, the timing of when some of these deals go down. When guys are on the trade block like Dallas Goedert and Michael Mayer, and it's they either don't fit or teams are at least open to moving on and resetting. In the case of the Eagles, the draft is often a time to do that because teams that are interested in them are trying to match up. Can they answer that position in the draft, or do they need to go there? And you look at a position the Colts are in, they're not like other teams may look at tight end as, hey, it'd be nice to add one. You think about a team like the Bears, they have a good one in Cole Kmet, but if they don't get one, they don't absolutely have to go out and tight end one, but the Colts do. They just don't have anything that remotely resembles that, and it's killed them. It's killed them ever since Jack Doyle hung it up. It's hurt them in the run game where they have not been able to really spring Jonathan Taylor for as many explosive runs around the edge. It's hurt them on third downs and in the intermediate range, and it's just made their offense way too limited in personnel, which is the whole reason they hired Shane Steichen, was to kind of flip that math on its head and impose his will on defensive coordinators. And so to get a number one tight end, it's not like a running back where you could wait, or guard, you could wait till maybe the third or fourth round, plug and play. It's a position that not many rookies are going to come in and be great at. So the ones that are, like a Brock Bowers, they go pretty early. They may be able to wait until the second round, but that's where it's just getting dicey. And so you look around and you think a guy like Michael Mayer was a second-round pick a couple of years ago. He's had a couple of years of physical development. That's the big thing for tight ends. They need to come in the league and be strong enough to block. He's had that. And then Dallas Goedert's been doing it for many years, won a Super Bowl and all of that. So I think if they can't get one of those guys at the top, and my impression, I think Tyler Warren's going to go before they can pick. So I think they're going to need to trade up, which makes it unlikely that they're going to be the team to land him. That's where I think those trade options become quite a bit more likely. And then it's really just a matter of them deciding, is Colston Loveland, is that enough of a fit and an answer just to sit there at 14 and be happy with him? Do they want to try a guy in the second round and think that might be good enough? Can Mason Taylor, a guy like that, get by as a tight end one? But I have a feeling that when they measure that up, if Tyler Warren's off the board, that's where Dallas Goedert or Michael Mayer look like more of an answer than betting on a rookie in a year where they know they have to get this right.
Hey, Nate, what would be the better scenario, you think, in terms of this Colts team? Production, wins? Would it be, drafting one of the guys in round number one? We had talked about Loveland or Warren, or going after the been there and done that veteran tight end that you also mentioned?
I think for this season, you'd have to go with the veteran. You'd have to go with a guy like Dallas Goedert. It really stands out as that best option. You're talking about someone who's consistently over 700 yards and already an elite blocker, has done it in the playoffs and won a Super Bowl and is 30 years old, and he's got all these things that you're going to hope that develop in a rookie, but you never quite know till they're out there. The question with a guy like that and doing that move is, it costs more in the salary you're going to give him, and you probably need to extend him for a couple of years. But also, it's sort of playing that out where there's a reason the Eagles are, shopping a guy who's that good, is that he's dealt a few injuries, turning 31 years old. They don't know how many years left he has of this. So if that's where you measure that up with a Tyler Warren, you can get Tyler Warren as a building block where this is maybe the worst year of his career, but he's still pretty good. He just keeps building on that. He's on a cheap rookie deal and all of that. So for the long term, a guy like Tyler Warren would be the best possible answer that they could find. But if it's really about, hey, we have to get the absolute best at that position for this year, and we cannot mess around with it at all, that's where I think Dallas Goedert's going to be the best option, especially since Shane Steichen knows him, and he's taken him to a Super Bowl and knows what he can do for the run game to hit high peaks, and he knows what he can do, especially against zone coverage, is what they really struggled with, is having answers in the middle of the field when teams want to go zone coverage against a mobile quarterback. That's Dallas Goedert's game. That's why he was such a great fit with Jalen Hurts. There's just nothing in the draft, I don't think, that's going to match his experience and feel for that, since he's done it for nearly a decade now. So I think if it's about this year, Dallas Goedert's the best option.
He's Nate Atkins of the Star NFL Draft. Colts, of course, part of that coming up in round one. Green Bay, the location, coming up on Thursday. Nate's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So saying all that as incredible as you just mentioned, then Chris Ballard's going to draft a defensive lineman, right? That's what we gather. That's probably what's going to happen. Correct?
Yeah, or maybe trade up for a guard.
Yeah,
We'll
maybe so. Right. I will say this. He has been out of Chris Ballard character. Would you suggest this offseason so far and how he addressed free agency? Could that hold over to this draft? And, maybe finally getting done something which they say they've tried before and did a year ago, trying to trade up and hard targeting something that, as you mentioned at tight end, is incredibly necessary, much more necessary really than anything else on that roster right now.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated to see how he handles this draft because he did do a 180 with free agency, going after Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward and even Daniel Jones, winning bidding wars, really pushing deals over the finish line when he hasn't in the past. And so the draft is an opportunity to carry that over, where last year they wanted to move up for a pass catcher, either one of the wide receivers or Brock Bowers, didn't get it, end up drafting A.D. Mitchell in the second round, and that's what they were kind of left with, and they felt the sting of that. So I'm curious how much that plays into it. But at the same time, what had to change this offseason was Chris Ballard's sort of confidence and aggressiveness specific to free agency. He just has never felt as confident and as comfortable managing that time of year. He's wired as a scout with the draft. He's had much better success with that over the years. So I'm curious to see if he wants to stick to the principles of the draft while thinking, hey, I did the changes in free agency. That's where I really had to change it up, but I got to be who I am still with the draft, or if he applies it there, or what the balance is. But I do think he understands that, this year is not the year to miss with, especially what they've been burned by in the past couple of years is these high picks who just get injured a ton, whether that's Anthony Richardson, Juju Brents, Jelani Woods, and all of those guys came into the draft with injury questions. And so it's those kind of misses, I think, is what he's going to have to find a way to avoid one way or another. So that's where I think you'll see some aggressiveness this year. That doesn't necessarily mean, put all the chips in one spot, move up and, drop down a bunch of picks. It could be aggressiveness in multiple trades, trading back, just maneuvering, maybe going for a veteran. I don't think he'll just sit there and pick kind of the boring positions, as some people think he does sometimes, and sometimes he does fall into that trap. I do think we're going to see him operate with a sense of urgency. I'm just curious to see exactly how that plays out.
Yes, Nate Atkins of the Star of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll hear from Rick Venturi on this show coming up in the 4 o'clock hour on Thursday regarding his interpretation of the Colts and how they handle this draft. Nate, I want to switch gears with you to Anthony Richardson Sr. Meeting with the media a little bit earlier today, was asked about working out with Josh Allen. I think that was a report. That did not happen. He still worked out with the quarterback guru. And what'd you make of his reaction, I think for the first time for you guys, with this so-called quarterback competition this offseason, this spring and the summer with Daniel Jones? Did he handle everything the right way, the way you thought he would earlier today in his response?
Yeah, I think he handled it both the right way and the way that's natural to him. He came out pretty, in a pretty bright mood, excited for to be back in the building, but also just excited for the opportunity. Whereas a lot of what's, the conversation with Anthony this offseason, of course, is negative or very kind of fearful about, what if this doesn't work out? And so they bring in Daniel Jones and, can he stay healthy? And that you can get yourself in that mentality if you're Anthony of, hey, they may be taking this away, but it's also an opportunity to really have the year that he didn't have last year when he was coming off of shoulder surgery. And, he got to the point where he couldn't even do back-to-back practices in June because he had soreness after rebuilding muscle from his shoulder. And then just kind of took away, just got to set him a course. And he learned a lot of hard lessons last year. And it is a make or break year. And you can either get scared of that or you can get excited for it, because this still is an opportunity to hit all those dreams that he had when he was growing up in Gainesville, in Section 8 housing and playing football just as a game of joy. And now he's approaching it from a place of having some hardened scars and some tough lessons. And so I asked him specifically if he felt any type of way, if he was at all hurt by, the fact that the franchise is pretty well laid out there, that they didn't feel like he prepared well enough that he was focused well enough. That could be a very personal thing to go to someone's work ethic. And he said that he had to take that on the chin, and he had to use that as an opportunity to grow. I think that's an acknowledgement that he knows they were right on that. And I feel that from him because on another topic where he didn't feel like they were completely right on, he's had a different reaction when Shane Steichen was not speaking accurately about his injuries and health and downplaying it last year. That really hurt Anthony because that's where he felt like he was getting blamed for things that were not really his fault. But this was an acknowledgement that, yeah, he could have been better, should have been better, didn't know. Whatever the reasons were for it has to be way different this year. And that's their hope. Their hope is that the Daniel Jones arrival, that the healthy offseason, that just the way that the clock is ticking on a third-year quarterback, that it puts him in place to pour everything into this year. And then we're going to find out if that's enough.
That's Nate Atkins of the Star. Before I let you go here, final thing regarding the draft. At some point, they address linebacker. What are some of these other needs? And do you agree with the path they've decided to take as far as the place-kicking situation is concerned, Nate?
Well, with kicker, I feel like, the way they described it, the way Chris Ballard answered it yesterday was, I don't buy that. I don't buy that it was just they love Spencer Schrader because they had him last year. They had him last year when Matt Gay was struggling, and you didn't fall in love with a kicker because he kicked 5 field goals in his life at the pro level. It was just about the fact that they're paying Matt Gay a premium salary, and he's not displaying premium skills. He's not hitting over 50 yards even when he plays in a dome, and that's what they were paying him for. And then you play that into injury concerns. He's just had trouble staying healthy, and the health issues have affected his performance. So I think it was just a financial value-based decision. And if they're going to preach competition, they need to follow through that at kicker, because they can't just give a position to Spencer Schrader, even if they like him, when he's only kicked 5 times in his life. So that's what I expect to happen, is that we'll see a kicking competition this summer. And yeah, linebacker would be the big need other than tight end, the big glaring need on defense. And then beyond that is sort of lesser needs, but still some pretty key ones. Guard, they really need a right guard after how good Wolf Rise was. And then their offense has just not been the same when they haven't had Wolf Rise in there, whether it's, everything happened in 2022 or even just last year after he got hurt. It's hurt them more than you would think a right guard position would. Second running back is, I think, a pretty significant need too, where we know how good Jonathan Taylor is, but no running back stays out there all the time, and he's not very, equipped as a pass protector and a receiver, which are huge, huge roles for a young quarterback if they're going to get this moving in the right direction. Edge rusher, losing Dayo Adengbo and having Samson Ebicom coming off an Achilles tear, and just, we're still waiting to see how big of a leap Latu takes. So that one is out there a little bit. So I think those are some of the bigger ones, but it's sort of tight end and linebacker are the ones that just feel like they need to get real difference makers at the top of the draft. And I just think both sides of the ball look a lot different if they have a really, really high-end player at those 2 spots rather than just a plug-and-play guy.
And it should be noted, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, Shane Steichen stressed that consistency is going to decide the quarterback battle, and that will be an endless dialogue we're going to have throughout the spring and the summer right here. Nate Atkins, at Nate Atkins _ you can find. He covers the Colts for the Indianapolis Star. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Stay in touch. I know that you will, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting all of this and talking about this draft coming up here relatively soon once again. Have a great draft, and I appreciate you coming on here today, Nate. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Nate Atkins on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Not 1, not 2, but 3 road shows. We are going to break in a legendary establishment, seriously, for the first time tomorrow. Just an iconic Southside destination for decades. For the first time doing the show, cannot wait. Tell you about that tomorrow. We're at a very familiar establishment with Heaven Hill Distillery. It's a tavern tour stop coming up on Thursday. And the Fishers Event Center, for what? coming up on Friday. I shall explain that and more coming up on the other side. Really, you and me the rest of the way. Game number 2 between the Bucks and the Pacers. Pacers up a game in that best-of-7 first-round series with Milwaukee. Tip time, 7 o'clock, 6:30 coverage begins right here on the Fan. So, James, I got to go like 8 stinking minutes, I think, after 6 or something.
About 8.5, yeah.
There's nothing we can cobble together that would get me out the door and down to the field house 8 minutes before. No?
It'd be a little bit tight.
A little bit tight, he says right there. All right. I'll look for it to feel it. By the way, too, I'm going to walk down to Coach's Tavern after I spend these 8 minutes yip-yapping with you after 6. So if anybody has the freedom of cocktailage and look in my direction, I'll be there. We'll down a couple before we head over to Cambridge Fieldhouse for game number 2 coming up later on tonight. How about that? Quick break. We'll come back. I do have time for you. We can load you up at 239-1070 regarding tonight's game. The most overrated NBA player, according to other NBA players, and that of an Athletic article, is Tyrese Haliburton. Who gets more of an offensive juice tonight? Would it be Haliburton because of that? Will it be the Bucks because Damian Lillard returns this evening? That we'll touch upon coming up next. Do not go anywhere. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Shout out to Matt and Matt right there as well. Hey, sit tight. I'm coming back with you next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Metal!
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, that's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. The album's out of time, I believe, James. This Losing My Religion made synonymous in what 1990s episodic program? I believe it was utilized a number of times on this hour-long Aaron Spelling classic.
I have no idea.
The classic theme song went na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na.
You act like that's going to help me determine this at all.
Na-na-na-na. Have you ever heard of anything called Everybody Out There Screaming, James, at you right now? We're not talking about Melrose Place. I love that, too. I watched it just like Seinfeld did. Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh, I know that. Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, there was, I forget what it was. I believe it was the late Luke Perry.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's sad, too. The late Luke Perry and Shannon Doherty.
Mm-hmm.
Both have passed away. I believe this surrounded their on and off love affair.
I've never actually watched the show.
I believe I'm right about that. You never watched the show?
No. See, you doing the snapping made me think it was some sort of
the Addams Family.
Addams Family, yeah.
No. 90210. It is hard to believe that both Shannon Doherty and Luke Perry are gone. You remember Jason Priestley wanted to drive an IndyCar. Remember the wreck he had at Kentucky? Almost killed himself there. Jason Priestley at the other station once upon a time came in and spent like 2 hours with me on the air. And he wanted to talk about racing and IndyCar and open wheel. And I wanted to talk about Brenda and Donna and Kelly. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Yeah, IndyCar in a moment, but tell me a little bit more about Donna Martin graduating here. Come on. You know, and I can always say this show was on when I was at Indiana State. And this is true. You're going to say, now you're just lying. But the reason why I and we, dudes, watched it was because the chicks hanging out with us watched it. And then we kind of got, I got interested in it. 90210. There are other dudes are not going to be as upfront and honest like I am. I got interested in it. I wanted to know what the hell was going down at the Peach Pit with Nat. You know, I saw this skivvies the other night, too, the afternoon, on Sunday afternoon. Boston's went over Orlando. And you watched Jason Tatum, I think it was in that fall, and didn't Missoula yell at him to get his ass up or something like that? Tatum is doubtful for game 2 with a wrist issue. And that's when Joe Missoula was yelling at him to get up. You know, he stopped the trainer. The trainer was going to run out under the basket, and he was yelling at Tatum to get up. Doubtful for game 2 against Orlando. Thank you, Skivvies, for that. Joseph Fenton Faust says, who was your favorite 90210 crush? There is not much that gets better, cinematically speaking, or TV-wise. This is not cinematic. Not much better than Tiffany Amber Thiessen as Valerie in the hot tub. Not much better than that. That is really tough. Now, I was probably going back even further than that, more of a Tori Spelling, more of a Donna Martin than I was a Kelly or a Brenda. But Tiffany Amber Thiessen as Valerie in the hot tub, and that was the later days. That was not one of the originals. That was pretty awesome. So now I'm going to get, what do you call them, GIFs or memes? Well, I'm going to get like 1,000 of those little short videos of Tiffany Amber Thiessen as Valerie in the hot tub.
It's GIF.
GIF.
Yes.
It is well worth it. Just mentioning it is well worth it. So losing my religion, REM. Hello, Mr. JMV. I don't get how every year it seems that we have no issue trading back, but as soon as we need to trade up, it's, quote, it takes two to tango, which, by the way, I'm so sick and tired of hearing it takes two to tango. It drives me nuts. We can no longer say that. Can we wipe that clean, please? No more it takes two to tango. I don't even know who the hell tangos. There's not one dude out there right now that's listening has any idea what the hell a tango is. Not one. Zero. None. No more it takes two to tango. Alex continues, we tried, or it just didn't work out. Type of response from Ballard. Other teams go after players they want, so why can't the Colts? Ballard still seems too comfortable for someone who hasn't won anything, and I blame that on the owner for not having his seat more warm. And there's a lot to be said that's accurate, Alex, about that. I think going into year number 9, there'll be a lot of people out there, Alex, that will wholeheartedly agree with that assessment right now. I can't. It's like the Mount Rushmore of, or somebody talking about narratives. I can't hear any of that crap. Doc Rivers, 5 minutes ago, Jeremiah Johnson details he meeting with the media before Game 2, talking about Damian Lillard returning after just 3 practices. Says they will have to monitor his conditioning and minutes tonight. Monitored conditioning and minutes, which should come at no surprise for anybody. You knew 100% that was going to take place. The return of Damian Lillard, monitored conditioning and minutes. And who among us have not had their conditioning monitored recently? All of us. 239-1070 is that number. Jeff is up next today. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you, brother?
Great. Hey, tango is a dance step, knucklehead.
Oh, I know that. Oh, so what? Well, I'm not one of the knuckleheads that didn't. I know what it is.
No, you did. You didn't know what you.
I did too know what I said. That most of the people out there don't know what the hell the tango is. And listen. The only reason I know is because I watched movies that were in black and white. Otherwise, hell, I wouldn't know. Jeff, there's zero way that you tango.
Oh yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, I dance.
How old are you? How old are you, Jeff?
I'm old enough to know better.
Let's see. That's why.
No, I'm 69.
69. So they tango at your high school prom back in the day, Jeff? What were you? You're 15, 14. Let's see. You're 88. So class of 74, Jeff, were you?
Yep.
All right. You're tangoing in 1974. Were you tangoing to, trying to think here, Blue Swede and Hooked on a Feeling? That was probably your prom song, right? 1974?
I don't have any idea. I didn't make it to prom.
Why not, Jeff? You got to go to the prom. That's the only reason you go to high school. Besides that and partying after sporting events, that's the only reason why we went. I wouldn't go otherwise. Would you?
Well, no, not really.
See? All right. Thanks for the tango update, Jeff. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for listening, too, buddy. I appreciate it. Yeah, tango is a dance. 1974, Blue Swede, Hooked on a Feeling. That was your prom song that year? Seriously, high school is for sports, parties, and after parties. That's it. After sports, parties, and sports. That's it. Everything else. I mean, who else? Hey, I went there for the algebra. Yeah, my ass, you didn't go there for the algebra. Nobody goes for the algebra. I would go over there maybe for home ec. Maybe. Full disclosure, I'm probably not going for the choir, not going for the band. I'm sure as hell not going for the cross country and running and all that crap. Nah, you're going for the hoop, the baseball, probably the football, and the after party. That's it. Where'd you go to Brownsburg, James?
I did, yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Like, why did I go to high school?
Did they make you?
Yeah.
I mean,
I went
Was
because
there
I
anything
needed to graduate.
other than just what I mentioned? Anything of a redeeming quality?
I mean,
I loved it. I'd go back again in a second, but I'm serious. That's why I went.
I would
could
not
add
go
talk on the. I also went. I talked on the phone a lot. So I played sports, went to after parties, and talked on the phone. That was it.
I don't think I would repeat my high school experience.
No, I'd go back again in a second, baby. All right, if you're on hold, I'll get to you actually not the final time because somebody said we got to go for 8 minutes into the 6 o'clock hour, which is absolutely unacceptable if I didn't love you as much as I did. Damian Lillard monitored minutes and conditioning upon his return later on tonight. This show on the road at a fresh new place. Now, it's been around for decades. It's iconic. It's legendary. But the first time we've done a show there coming up tomorrow, I shall explain. Rest of the week, we're on the road, and I do not want you guys to miss it. Your calls and more to close it out until 8 after we go. 7 o'clock tip time, 6:30 coverage begins. Game 2, Bucks and Pacers from Gainbridge Fieldhouse later on tonight. You got to keep it right here. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, monitored minutes and conditioning for Damian Lillard later on tonight. Game 2, he is back. First time that we're going to see Tyrese Haliburton since in an athletic article being described as the most overrated player by some of his peers in the NBA. So a spark of individual offense. You're still going to get from him what's necessary for this team to be as good as it can be offensively. But knocking down some shots, individually speaking for himself, I would expect that later on tonight as much as I would expect the enthusiasm of the Bucks in the return of Lillard. Seriously, I don't think that article from The Athletic could come at a better time. It was well done, Athletic, with that timing right there. JMV 90210 was a favorite of my girlfriend in 91. We watched most episodes in another buddy's girlfriend's parents' house. Interestingly enough, I ended up renting that crib in 2023. I also know what the tango is, brother. Hope all is well. Aaron writes this from Greenfield. The only tango I know is Tango and Cash, the film starring Sly Stallone and the ageless Kurt Russell. That is a film, by the way, and Aaron knows this very well, that utilizes the term foobar maybe even more than I do. It's impressive. Shout out to G. Sally for sending the Tiffany Amber Thiessen in a hot tub as Valerie at 90210 right there. That's outstanding. And Frank Lucas says, Hotel Tango in Indy. I've never been there. Should I go? Veteran-owned and operated distillery. I think that's down. Is that off of Fletcher or Fountain Square? Hotel Tango Distillery. Shout out to it right there. Oh, yeah, Jim McCann in Southern California. Last Tango in Paris. I know that's like a huge sex film, right, in 72? Can I say sex? You just reacted like I said something dirty when I said sex.
Oh, no, just you looked like you were looking at me to answer that question.
And I look at it this way. It's like older Marlon Brando sex. It's tough to get down with that.
When you say sex film, I'm assuming this
I think
isn't
there's a lot of early 70s nudity going on there.
Gotcha, but
and
it's not.
That can be a little bit dicey.
It's not like a Marlon Brando in a porn film, is it?
No, he's not in a porn film, but I think he's he's doing some hen and shin often in it, I think. And, that can be a little bit different.
The 70s were a different time.
Yeah. Skivvy says that's a great way to put it. Quote, some of his peers talking about those that describe Tyrese Haliburton as the most overrated in the NBA. 13 of 90 players. And they probably just all dislike him in general. All 13. Yeah, we've decided to pull Damian Lillard, Giannis, Bobby Portis. And they all think he's the most overrated. And so does Potsy and Ralph Malph and Laverne and Shirley. They think he's overrated too, especially Potsy. All right, quick one. We got a little time coming up here. Little anything goes for 8 minutes. On the clock with anything goes for 8 minutes. Your calls coming up on the other side. An incredible 8 minutes leading you up to the Colts Daily, correct? Colts Daily coming up.
Colts Daily Update.
Got that coming up for you. And then Pacer pregame, game 2. We'll rehash and then give you our location, our destination for tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday coming up too. Don't go anywhere.
Guy with exceptional hair.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now let's do some Anything Goes right here for about 8 minutes, and then we'll get you off to the Colts Daily Update. Draft coverage, of course, with our friends with the Colts, and then Pacer pregame for game number 2. Damian Lillard active. They will be monitoring his conditioning and minutes in this game, too, with Milwaukee down a game in their best of 7. Tip time 7 o'clock tonight. You can hear it here on The Fan. You can watch it on Pacers TV. Tomorrow, Behringer's, the legendary Behringer's, South Meridian. First time I've done the show there. I cannot wait to see everybody. Join me at Behringer's coming up tomorrow. Behringer's South Meridian, that is tomorrow. And then I'm going to see everybody over at Marian University tomorrow evening. The Clayton Family Circle of Honor supporting Knights Athletics, the Marian Convocation and Arena. That is tomorrow night with my friends from Marian University. And Doug Bowles and I have a conversation coming up tomorrow evening there. Thursday, that's a tavern tour stop at Taylor's Pub in Nora. Brent Halverson, Heaven Hill Distillery, our friend Jim Romanek. Rick Venturi joins us coming up on Thursday. That's Taylor's Pub in Nora with Heaven Hill Distillery Thursday. And the Indy Ignite Fishers Event Center versus Orlando, the Valkyries, coming up on Friday, will be up in Fishers at the Fishers Event Center on Friday night. Meantime, 239-1070 is the number. Bill's on Anything Goes right now. Hello, Billy. How are you?
JMV, I'm doing great. Getting ready to go to the Mutt and cheer the Pacers on tonight. I think the key to the game is going to be the battle of the second units, and I'm going to be anxious to see if Doc Rivers, if they get behind in the first quarter, if they get double digits behind in the first quarter, I think he's going to start subbing pretty heavily and everything and try to get some of those shooters in the game. But Milwaukee can shoot the ball now, so it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great time.
I would expect
tomorrow.
a lot different than probably what we witnessed in game number 1. You'll feel really good if it isn't, if it is the same, but certainly expect something different than what we witnessed.
I'm looking for Obi Toppin to have a really, really big game today. He didn't do much really in the first game, but this is the kind of game that's tailored for him, and I can't wait.
Very, very nice. Hopefully they can follow up Saturday with a Game 2 win that was equally as impressive. Billy, anything else?
That's it, man. See you tomorrow.
All right, see you tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. Behringer's. I mentioned that. South Meridian, you got to join us. I cannot wait. It's a big-time Matt Taylor hangout right there. South Meridian. It's a little bit south of Raymond. And right there, Pleasant Run Parkway and South Meridian. The Old South downtown or whatever the hell that's called down there. It's awesome, though. You're going to love Behringer's. I'll see you there coming up tomorrow. Give me Fulton on Anything Goes before we have to bail out of here. Fulton, you got to go in a big hurry.
John. How are you?
Buddy, I'm okay. What's up with you?
I'm getting ready for my Colts Hall of Fame this Saturday.
That's what I figured,
Saturday morning.
All right. Well, congratulations.
And, I haven't been to a Pacers game yet.
You haven't?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
So let me know if you want me to come.
Fulton's wanting to go to the game tonight, huh? You want me to let you know? All right.
Yeah, just let me know when the next game's going to be.
You got it. Friday in Milwaukee, you want to go?
I sure do.
I'm not going. No, I'm just kind of joking. I'm not going. I'm not going to Milwaukee either Friday or Sunday. But after today or tonight, those are the next 2 games.
I am going to go see Kevin Bowen at the draft this Saturday.
Are you really?
Yes, I am.
Well, tell him we said hello. You better make sure you get his new burger, the Kevin Bowen burger.
I sure will. They got to make my burger. So
make sure you go up to Kevin Bowen and say, "Hi, my name is Fulton, and I am better than Draft Capital." Okay, make sure you say that to him.
I sure will.
You got it, buddy. All right, good to hear from
see
you.
you on Saturday night.
You got it. That's Fulton right there, who is indeed much better, James, than Draft Capital. Easily much better than Draft Capital. Yeah, I didn't want to mislead. I didn't want him to think we were actually going to Milwaukee on Friday. because we're going to Fisher's, as I mentioned on Friday. Fisher's Event Center Friday.
He was on board to go to Milwaukee.
It sounded like, yeah. It would
right
not
away.
take much convincing. I think Fulton was going immediately. Yeah, Behringer's tomorrow, first time for the show, and absolutely cannot wait. And I think actually besides tomorrow, we'll be there maybe a couple of more times. I think Chris Hagan is going to join me tomorrow, and then I'm going to Marion University, and I've got to give a shout-out to them. I'm going to they call it emceeing. I call it like half-ass emceeing. They're going to keep my dialogue to a minimum, which is really responsible by them for something that is very important tomorrow. But I want to thank them for asking, and Doug Bowles and I have a conversation coming up at Marion tomorrow evening. And then on Thursday, as I mentioned, we're going to the Taylor's Pub, Nora, Heaven Hill Distillery. That's Tavern Tour Stop. Rick Venturi, that's the night of the draft, of course. Rick Venturi will give us his breakdown of the 4 o'clock hour coming up on Thursday. Friday, Fisher's Event Center. The Orlando Valkyrie. Is it Valkyrie or Valkyries? What's plural Valkyrie? I don't know.
It'd be Valkyries if it's plural.
Valkyries. Friday at the Fisher's Event Center. I shall see you there. Remember tonight, radio coverage begins at the bottom of the hour. 6:30, Game 2, Bucks of the Pacers. Damian Lillard is active this evening. Monitored minutes and conditioning. Colts Daily Update will lead you to that. If you're watching on TV this evening, that is Pacers TV. NBA TV is what it says. It will be blacked out locally. Pacers TV is where you watch that. We'll see if we can't get an effort like we saw on Saturday in game number 1. Bottom of the hour, they got it for you. Pacers-Bucks game 2. Up next, the Colts Daily Update. James, great job from you. I'm going to see you at Coach's Tavern. I am on the inbound right now. We'll see you there. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.